Welcome back to the Winner's Circle. I am here with Lori Tompos. She's from Avail Consulting, and she is one of our inaugural Horizon Award winners. And Horizons were our program for women transforming either teams or people. And Lori is definitely transforming people. Lori, welcome to the Winner's Circle, and congratulations on the award.
Thanks so much, Russ. I really am honored to be an award winner this year. Thank you.
Yeah, well, it was our first year doing this, and we looked for transformative stories of women, and yours is certainly one. And our judges were certainly clear on your nomination as a winner. So, give us a little bit of background on Avail Consulting and a little bit of background about you.
Oh, thanks so much. I did not set out to be a pioneer, but that has actually accidentally happened. So yes, my purpose, what I found is I'm living out my purpose, and it is to really transform people to be better leaders, more effective communicators and better leaders. And I am living out that dream right now. And it started in the military, and then it kind of took a pivot to higher education and corporate boardrooms. And I love it.
I love your story because it is you were in Desert Storm. Well, first, let's back up. You were at West Point, so you learned a little bit about discipline and leadership, I imagine there, and a little bit in Desert Storm in
Right.
combat. How did those early experiences kind of shape your view of kind of responsibility and accountability? Because I think that's what you talk a lot about in your TEDx speeches and in your
Mm.
consulting business.
Yes. Well, that's the thing is, yeah, I got a lot of great experience on character building and leadership and everything else. And then you kind of take a pivot out first into higher ed and then into corporate. And then I realized, wow, almost no one has had almost any training on actually being a leader. Wow,
Well,
lots of books on it, but not a lot of training.
yeah, I can tell you from firsthand experience being in corporate America, um, it was few and far between. There was a little bit of leadership, especially in Fortune 50 companies. They tried to
Mhm.
pluck you out a little bit, and you'd get the dunk every 1 to 4 years maybe of either a day session or an hour or half hour or half day, and you do other things, but there really was no purpose driven leadership training that was consistent. So what did you find in at West Point or in Desert Storm that kind of drove that kind of methodology that you're presenting?
The realization that, first for myself and then kinda outwardly too, that, that universally, no one likes to be micromanaged. I just kinda had the aha of like, "Wow, I think that's a universal truth." Uh, and so when I did the TED Talk, technically the name of it is "The Way We Think About Managing People is Dead Wrong."
Yeah, and I think you're right in that. So what's the counter to micromanagement? Macro management?
Well, so then, what the mantra is lead people, manage projects only.
No,
People are to be
yeah, that's great advice. So tell us a little bit more about that.
exactly. So when I say lead people, though, I mean lead differently than what maybe we think of, especially in the military, right? Well, I was used to like a command and control and kind of an authoritative, here's what we're doing and here's and you will do it and you will not question or whatever. I'm talking about a different kind of leadership. I'm talking about a support, like lead with care and concern and support. We're still leading by example. We're leading with purpose and we're leading with vision. So we're saying, hey, here's the what and here's the why. I'm going to let you discover the how. Now, if you tell me that you need guidance, or if I discover that you need guidance, then we're gonna move that together, right? I'm gonna meet you where you are, but I can only find out where you are when when I'm asking good questions, when I know when I know about you and I know what that means to you and I know right, I can usually when I'm saying, "Hey, let's do this," or whatever, "Hey, where are you gonna start? What are you thinking about?" And then someone can tell me, I can tell with what they say, whether they understood me or not, whether they know what we're talking about or not, right? So then I can give you guidance from there. So it's a different kind of leading. That's what I'm talking about.
It's very different. It's very different than what you say, that kind of command and control. And I imagine that, military leaders are command and control on the battlefield,
Hmm.
where it really matters, right? It's not time to ask questions. It's not time to, talk to me about your feelings or your background. It's time to
Right.
get the job done.
Right.
So it's a little bit different. And hopefully those sergeants and colonels have spent time understanding their teammates in a different way ahead of that battle. Did any of that come into play? Because it is two very, very different styles of leadership.
Right. And that was the thing is that I'm a let's lead with some competency and let's lead with some confidence and then let's lead with some compassion. So together. But you've got to have that you've got to establish some credibility first, but the way to do that is to know your stuff. And the way to do that is to get trained up. The way to do that is to make sure that you are a continuous learner, right? That you're not only learning, but you're applying things, right? So you're putting together, you're taking good educated risks, but you're incorporating things into your practice and you're trying things and you're working with people, not on people, but with people, right? So you're working together and that's kind of what's different. I'm
Yeah,
leaning with you.
yeah, and it is a very much of a team effort, not a dictator effort.
Exactly. Yes. And so that when I was at Desert Storm, then what happened was I knew how to. So to back up a little bit, I had arrived in Germany and I was one of the last lieutenants in the door. And so then they're like, "Hey, what can you do?" You're like 12 in line. Uh, get back. And I was like, "Oh, okay. What can I do? I can get prepared. I can learn the Patriot missile system really, really well. Nobody had heard of it. You needed a secret clearance to use it. It's this brand new thing in air defense artillery. I was like, okay, I'm going to learn this really, really well. Learn how to set it up. I'm going to learn how to run it. Let it not be said that I don't know what I'm doing. Competence is super important to me, knowing what you're doing. And so I'm going to make that be my mission. So I got certified. I knew exactly. So then a war happened. So no, people kind of hadn't planned on that. Well, you can't wait for that to happen to get prepared. You kind of have to anticipate, what do I think I'll need? What will, right? And so then they pulled just me from Germany. And then I met up with 11 infantrymen in the desert. I'm sure they weren't expecting a woman. I'm sure, so I take a look at these men and I'm like, okay, they don't need me to sit on them. Plus, we can't even do that, right? I know one thing, they know another. Let's let everybody do their expertise. I'm going to own my expertise. They're going to own theirs. And so I just took a look at them and I was like, let's all do our thing. So I was like, gentlemen, here's our mission. We're to protect part of the royal family and this air base, none of which we can see. My job is to set up and run the Patriot. Your job is to set up and secure the perimeter, keep us all safe. What questions do you have? What do you need from me? And they're like, we're good, ma'am. Thank you. Boom, done.
Well, first of all, thank you for your service. I know you were one of the first women in combat, and it goes way back, and that is not an easy job to do. Is not, especially back then, to drop into a squadron of men and and take charge. So
Right, right.
congratulations on that,
Thank
and
you.
and I imagine you were well trained for that at West Point. Um, but it took a lot of resilience. You landed in Germany with not much to do, and pivoted your kind of knowledge and expertise to go out into that desert and to have that mission. How did you prepare, and what led you to be so resilient?
I think that's just my nature. I just I like, I have a lot of drive. I just like to find ways to be helpful. I'm just scrappy. That's that's just who I am. When I first wanted to get into West Point, was going to go into other academies, and I was just like, I'm going to go to an academy. And the only question is which one. Because I'm I'm super driven that way. And just have, I have a dream and whatever. And I'm always like, don't let anybody step in front of your dream. You've got a dream, you've got a mission. That's for you. Only work with people who are supporting you in that dream. You support them in theirs, and they support you in yours. That's how friendships are supposed to work. Anybody else, let them go. It's okay.
Yeah, it's not adding value, right?
Yes.
So then you transitioned out of that military role into corporate America, and you were mentioning that there's really effectively very little or no kind of leadership training. What else surprised you as you made that pivot into that corporate role or into education that you really didn't think was going to be there?
Yes. Well, and again, to to go back to kind of all the things that I've done have been kind of male dominated, just kind of accidentally. Even at West Point, they had said to my face, women shouldn't be here, and I said, "Oh, um, your issue is with Congress," and they're like,
Or the human race, one
"Yeah,
of the two.
well," but and it was fine because like I didn't take an issue with that. I just was like, um, "Oh, it just gives away that you don't have a sister. It gives away that you haven't seen a woman in action. You don't have a girlfriend. You know what I mean? You don't know. I'm not going to be angry with you for that. I'm just going to show you what women can do, right? And so the guys later were like, we're sorry. We were wrong." And and my best, like, I always had to partner all the basic training and everything else. I always partnered with a man who's one of my very best friends on the planet, right, to this day. And he told me recently, he said, if anybody ever says a woman can't do anything, I immediately turn to you, which is awesome. Right. So that's super inspiring. And all the things that I've done along the way, when you come in there and people kind of look at you of like, what have you got? And I know sometimes from the very start, right, when people kind of look at you and you're young, what do you know? Whatever. Or you haven't been here long enough to have an opinion or whatever. Don't let that get you down. Drive on. Do your thing. Continue to add value. Continue to learn. Continue to prepare. Then when you need to step up, you're ready.
And I think that is such great advice right now. We've got a major transition going on in AI, and a lot of people in the tech world and a lot of people in other worlds are petrified about what's going on with jobs. And I have a lot of colleagues, and I see a lot of chatter and social media about angst and anxiety. And if you look at what that is, it's something you cannot control. That's why we get anxious, right?
Right.
And when you can't control it, you kind of double down, like you're saying, on what you can't control. And I think for people who are in these AI jobs or in companies that have lots of roles that are going to be filled by AI, start looking, at that Patriot missile system. What's inside of that company that where you can learn, you can educate yourself. At the very worst, you're going to be more prepared for the next job and the competitor, right?
Exactly. What can you do? What's in your control? Because that's all you can do, really. That's right. And all the things, all the high human skills, right? All the empathy, all the compassion, all the things that make us human, all the what we would argue maybe a little customer service. The times when you are calling in and you actually need to speak with a person because you have something that's beyond what the menu provides, where you need to problem solve, all the critical thinking, analytical problem solving. Those are the skill sets that people are looking for. That's like those are the two of the biggest things that we're looking for. Strategic thinking. Those are the ways. Challenge yourselves on 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 how do you increase that capacity. And then all of those things contribute to your leadership skills.
Why do you think so many companies still default to like managing people versus leading? I mean, it seems like such an easy thing to do, but we're stuck with HRs. HR departments. Nothing against HR departments. I think you're set up to fail. But they get into transactions and stuff like that, and it really does. It takes that extra effort, or maybe a CEO or a CRO or CHRO or whoever to really kind of push that forward and to allocate budget and allocate time and allocate the significant amount of resources that it takes to really kind of make that uh, you know titanic shift, like where you're not talking about just a little bit of more training. You're talking about kind of a leadership principle that's very different, so manage versus lead.
Yes. Well, that's the thing is people need to feel seen, respected, and heard. They need to feel that psychological safety, right? They need to feel like they can say what they need to say, they can be who they need to be, they can be themselves. Someone has their back, right? We look at teams, we look at leaders. 87% of the time, people leave the job because of the manager, not because they don't want the job, but because they can't take the manager anymore. I have I have so many people telling me, "I can't be micromanaged." These are people in mid-career, even at end of career, people just gutting it out because they feel like they don't have other options, but hating every minute of it, really dreading it. That's unnecessary. I think that there's a great fear of delegation. There's a fear of if I can do this better, so why don't I just do it quicker? That all falls into the management category versus the lead category, right? Leading is that I believe in you. It's a mindset. What we're talking about is a mindset shift. This is a way of being. It's almost like a lifestyle, right? I'm choosing this way of being. I'm choosing to lead this way. I'm choosing to see you this way. And because I know that once I transform my leadership team or the people that are around me, everyone gets better on every team I'm on. Everyone thanks me, literally, right? So all the teams, all your family, your friends, all the people that you interact with, thank you for being a better leader when that happens because they recognize you value people more, right? You're valuing people. When people feel valued, they bring their best. When people feel like they don't have that psychological safety that we talked about, when they feel like they could be on the chopping block, when they feel like they're getting micromanaged, what that connotes is, what that transmits is, I don't trust you. Uh, I don't believe in you. So what the optics are is here. You're not bringing out the best in me. I'm here. When I do a massive, if I believe that a plan or a strategy includes just massive cutting of people, that's not a strategy. That's not a strategy. That actually costs you in the end because it costs you so much money to hire new people, right? And train them. Why don't you just hire well first and then treat them well? Why are you working so hard to get the right people in the door and then treating them terribly? Why would you do that? That makes no sense. They used to do that at the service academy, and then at a certain point, they were like, "Wait a minute, we're trying to get the best and brightest in here, and then we get them in here, and then we treat them terribly, and then we wonder why they leave. Why is that? Either that or they gut it out and they're angry. Why is that? Why can't we do it differently?" Wow, that's what I saw. So I was like, "Oh, we need to have more support." That's the change we need to make. That's the mindset change that we're talking about. That's the difference between managing and leading. And you got to let go of the management mindset of the I've got to sit on my people or they won't be productive. No. Instead, you give them wings. You're like, "Hey, What are your strengths? What do you like to do well? What how can you crank this out of the park? What parts of are do you do well? And then we back that up and we hire well, right? We make sure that we're all in alignment with the talent that we bring in. But then the biggest thing is we keep them in. When I talk to HR, I teach a class on global HR issues, and I talk to a lot of HR professionals. I say, "Hey, what's the biggest thing keeping you up at night?" And they're like, "Stopping the revolving door of talent from leaving." I'm like, "Guess what that is? That's a leadership issue. That's a I got to treat my people well issue. That's what that is. That's a let's not manage our people, let's lead them issue." And you can choose to do that.
It is absolutely a choice, and I see it in this business. Um, we have categories. This is all about recognition. It's about getting
Yeah.
recognition for great stories, great people, great products, and we actually break that down into companies, products, and people, and we recognize people and teams. But I'll tell you what, it is the least leveraged and least recognized category in our platform.
Wow.
It's almost 40%, probably 40% and 45% products and companies. And it drives me crazy because we're doing all of this work, right? We people are doing all of this work to support we people. Every product out there, every invention, every intention is to help somebody do something better or have support or live their life better. And we're not recognizing the people. And so I'm encouraged by what you're saying that these leaders are starting to get the idea of you got to lead, you've got to recognize people's talents, and what better way than awards to internal or external, to pat somebody on the back and to show that leadership.
Yes. Yes. And to inspire them, yes, also, yes, and also get them trained. That demonstrates respect. That demonstrate let's invest in them. That is the way that you do it, right? You invest in yourself and you invest in them and you get them trained up and then you apply what you've learned. And even I just taught a class on global HR issues last night, literally. And I said, "Hey, all the things that happened to you, uh, take what you can of what you've learned. What am I meant to learn from this? I'm going to get knocked down. It's in how I get up. I get knocked down 7 times. I got to get up 8, right? I always got to get up. I got to get up better. Nelson Mandela famously said, I either win or I learn, right? I don't take it's not a failure. It's a redirect. It's a pivot, right? Okay. What am I meant to learn in this? How am I meant to take that away? I wouldn't take away any of the hard stuff that I've been through if it couldn't lead me to where I am now. I'm right where I'm meant to be. I'm doing what I'm meant to be doing. I can see that, right? So I'm like living out my purpose. I'm like in Maslow's hierarchy. I'm like self-actualizing, and I want to help other people get there too. I understand how you get there. You can't get past you can't get up there without all the needs being met.
No, and you've seen a lot of different battlefields in this area. Or you've literally gone from battlefield. You mentioned all the education you do now into the boardrooms, into the corporate environments. You span this kind of wide range of expertise and experiences, and you also now are really kind of going into this weird environment that we have. You've got, you had kind of had this world pre-COVID, world post-COVID, new administrations. How has that leadership changed across those battlefields, across that timeline in the last, 5 years? What are you seeing that's maybe for the good and for the bad?
Honestly, I'm seeing a need to lean into more of what we're talking about. A need to lean into psychological safety. I need to lean into that growth mindset. Like with having a growth mindset, it's I used to think it was just like being open to growing. No. It's being it's believing in yourself. and then putting in the work to make it happen. Uh, Being okay with challenging things, being enjoying that resistance. When somebody says I can't do something, I love that. Those are like fighting words to me. Those are awesome. I love to take that on. I love a good challenge. That just, that just fuels the fire for me. If it's a good challenge, of like a challenge in the right way, I love that. If something hard things when someone delivers some feedback, let's consider the source. Is it well intentioned? Is it someone that you respect? If if so, let's take it in. You know, a lot of times people struggle with delivering feedback well, constructively. Sometimes they kind of, they maybe stumble in delivering that, but maybe the intention is good, right? So let's take what we can from that and take the positive with that. Let's lead with good intent. I do a lot with crucial conversations, right? And I try to do a lot with figuring out what your strengths are and then leaning into those, right? So with crucial conversations, we lead with good intent. You can only do that if you have good intent, right? I find a lot of times things aren't happening or people get frustrated or whatever. It's not necessarily because people don't want to do something. It's because they don't know how. But they're not going to tell the leader that they don't know that. A CEO once turned to me and he said, "I don't understand. I thought I was clear. I thought that we said we could do this, and then it didn't happen. What's going on?" So there's lots of reasons why things can't happen. There could be other constraints. There could be outside external things or whatever. But most of the time is that the person doesn't know how to do it, and they're going to stall, and then maybe they're going to scramble, and then but they're going to be hesitant to ask you, especially if you believe that you're approachable and you're not.
Mm.
So a lot of leaders may feel that they are. Oh, I have an open door policy or whatever, but they're going to bark at people when they actually come in. So see, right? So sometimes a lot of times it can be that you think you're showing up a certain way and then you find out, oh, maybe not. Maybe
Yeah,
I've got room here.
that experience uh, is super important. That leadership experience of what are you presenting out to employees? Excuse me.
Hmm.
What you're presenting out to employees is super important. I've been lucky to have, very good CEOs in my career, but I've seen other examples of really bad ones. And
Yeah.
one that comes to mind is a former doctor's office where, the doctor was behind, it was more of a consultancy type of doctor, and he's behind two doors, double doors. And he would like have one open and the waiting room was right there. And he would be yelling out at this front desk staff to do things.
Uh huh.
And then I'm supposed to walk into that doctor's door and feel comfortable to sit down and and tell him my most intimate secrets or whatever. It's very disheartening. Luckily, I wasn't with that doctor in the practice. I was with another one. But it just struck me as like, that's about the worst experience a leader, a doctor, a support person could have is you're yelling at your staff right before you take a patient. It's like, Lord, and I can't imagine exactly what you're saying, a CEO yelling at a VP or a director or any employee and then asking them for their help. It goes back to that story of you know, and the Patriot missiles. It's like everybody's got their job to do and you need somebody to kind of help you guide. Hey, remember, you're in this job. And you've put, what struck me is you're talking about putting in the effort to know these people so that when you're on the battlefield, they don't question you.
Right.
Right? You
Right.
want that activity to your point, that CEO, they didn't trust you. They didn't believe in that mission. They didn't get the right leadership and guidance from you. So they didn't know what to do. Right. And they didn't know what role they were performing. So
Hmm.
it's really struck me in that regard of just that employee experience is so important. I imagine you walk into these boardrooms now that you're in this consulting business, you're going in, you're getting hired by CEOs or HR teams or board of directors.
Hmm.
And I imagine you walk into these leadership team meetings to kind of kick off projects and you see 10, 20 faces staring at you. What signals do you pick up on to tell you whether that culture is good, healthy, or a little bit fragile?
Oh, that's such a great question. So loaded. I like to do honestly, I like to do a nice kind of assessment where we review where everyone gets kind of a report, and then we do maybe an individual kind of discussion coaching where we talk about what do you see as your strengths? How do you feel that you're showing up? How would you like to show up? What do you think that you see? Because that is very revealing. So I normally would do that and kind of front end everything. So I would know who's sitting in the room ahead of time maybe. And then when we're showing up in the room, like one time I did a thing with an executive leadership team and one guy is um everyone's in there, they're all one guy is standing and he's got his computer elevated, and he's at like kind of a standing desk, and everyone else is sitting kind of in a U-shaped formation, and that sends signals, uh for instance, right? That because a lot of times there's a signal to the about the culture that you immediately get, and that wasn't a good one.
No, it reminds me of learning that pharmacists in the old days used to be elevated for exactly that reason, to kind of look down on people and to present as an authority. And you're like, oh, you walk into
Mhm.
CVS's and Walgreens today, they're all flat, thankfully. You're also a huge champion for women and women's leadership, and obviously by living it yourself. What surprises you in 2026 that the barriers that still exist for women when you walk into these offices?
Well, I love how far we've come. I'm so encouraged by all the wonderful things that women are doing. That, uh I love that, I don't know, I'm just in an inspired mood because I, do a lot of interviewing with young people, right? And I do a lot of teaching, and then I do a lot of, um, helping with West Point. If a young person says, "Hey, I wanna go to a service academy," I'll meet with them immediately. and and then I'll maybe help with a congressional board or something too, and sit with them. And I love interviewing young people because that always gives me inspiration about the next generation of leaders that we're talking about and how wonderful they are. And honestly, a lot of that stuff from the past. It's in the past, and I love how far we've come. I feel like we I don't know. I feel like a lot of you can't let that stuff get you down. You can't move it you can't be thinking about what you can't do. You've gotta be thinking about what's possible.
Yeah. When you're teaching and you're interviewing young students, what surprises you that they know about leadership that maybe we forget?
Well, I love that they are just starting out. So they see immediately the um stuff that's not right. They see maybe the toxicity, or they'll see um the how people are getting managed and how that's not good, and they're a lot quicker to leave or not even get in the door. As as young people, that's what I see. They won't tolerate that like previous generations did. Like I was in a leadership group that I I had asked a question, and it was a group of all leaders, and I was so excited to be with this group, and then I found out when I asked a question, I got my head handed to me, and wow. So the upshot of that is that I never have another question again, right? And I never have another idea that I'm willing to share again. And as soon as I can get out, I will. And I did. And that's what it looks like. And so when people are like, wow, nobody's speaking up at the meetings or whatever, it's not necessarily, it could be that everybody's an introvert, but it
It's
might not.
usually the environment. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, with all the kind of this AI world coming about and kind of the global, we're going through some global shifts. Um, if you were to give some advice to somebody starting out or re-evolving their career and rethinking about kind of what leadership looks like, what are three things you'd tell them to go kind of focus on?
I say, focus on the high human skills that we have. Focus on skills for starters. What do you need to know and be able to do? Think about how you can prepare for the future workforce. What do we think we'll be able to need going forward? What will the future of work possibly hold, and where would you best fit in given your strengths and your skill sets? That's that's where I would look. And then how can you help others get there as well?
That sounds like great advice. Lori, this has been so inspiring. Thank you again for your service. And thank you for leading those Patriot missile banks out in the middle of the desert. I know there are a few people probably over there that would thank you too, uh, among your teammates too. But thank you for that. And thank you. And congratulations again on winning the awards and joining us on the winner circle. It's really been a pleasure.
Thanks so much, Russ. I really appreciate it.